From an octopus with too many arms to a terrifying thing falling from the sky, here are 10 of the weirdest creatures ever caught. Number 10. Ratfish. This alien-looking fish is quite frightening. They are some of the weirdest creatures in the ocean, and it's always a shock when someone catches one because it's not something you would expect. Pictures recently surfaced of a fisherman who hooked something that looks like a flying creature from the dark side. He was fishing about 11 miles south from Cabo San Lucas in Mexico when he said he spotted a creature floating on the surface. He said it was about 35 inches long and would turn belly up and then try to submerge. An observer described it as having large, luminous eyes, and that it looked like a seal crossed with a baby marlin that had swallowed a chicken. No one knew what it was, and word spread with everyone trying to find out. The fish was so strange that the guy who caught it actually froze it and sent it out to be analyzed. It was determined it was either a ratfish or a chimera belonging to an unknown species. The chimera was a Greek mythical monster with the head of a lion and the tail of a dragon, which inspired the name for these animals. They are closely related to sharks and rays, but aren't quite the same. These creatures from the deep usually live pretty far beneath the surface of the ocean and are rarely seen. This fish is covered in armor, it has milky white eyes that make it appear horrifying, and it has sharp teeth used for ripping through flesh. They are not a threat to humans at all, but if they feel threatened, they can inflict a small wound with their dorsal fin spines. Number 9. A 9-armed octopus. As a general rule, octopuses have 8 arms, but now one with 9 arms has been caught off the coast of Japan. This one had somehow come across an extra appendage. The creature was nearly eaten by the family who caught it, but they stopped when they realized it had an extra limb branching off from one of its main tentacles. Rather than eat the sea monster for dinner, they donated it to a museum. Extra appendages are quite unusual when it comes to octopuses. However, it's not unheard of. It didn't even come with a fully formed 9th arm. The extra limb was a branch from its regular limb, almost like having a finger growing out the side of one of your normal fingers. Lovely. According to Michael Vecchione, an invertebrate scientist in Washington, D.C., octopuses can regenerate their arms, but sometimes the regeneration doesn't work perfectly. It's a very tough process. When an arm is damaged, or if it gets straight up severed, like ripped off by a shark or something, sometimes extra tissue growth results in more than one appendage growing back. This could mean an extra arm. This process of an octopus losing an arm and growing back was documented in the wild in My Octopus Teacher on Netflix. Did any of you watch it? If you haven't, you definitely should. The 9th limb is not cause for concern and definitely was not the byproduct of radioactivity coming from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. This is despite the fact that the mutant octopus was caught pretty close to the decommissioned plant, which of course had a meltdown after the 7.9 magnitude earthquake in 2011. The octopus was caught in a trap in the Shizugawa Bay, just 125 miles from the plant. It was dead when the fishermen caught it, but still tasty enough to take home and try to eat. Number 8. The Glyphis Shark. The most elusive shark in the world is known as the Speartooth Shark. Until 2014, not a single live adult had ever been seen in the wild. It was then that a couple of fishermen in Papua New Guinea snapped photos of one and sent the pics to scientists. Then, finally, the first adult speartooth shark in history, known by its scientific name of Glyphis Glyphis, was caught, tagged, and released in 2015. The tags would send data to satellites in space for a period of 2 months, revealing to scientists the first details ever about what we now know is a very endangered species. Just how endangered is up for debate. The International Union for Conservation of Nature, or the IUCN, claims there are only about 2,500 individuals left in the world. They are all living in the warm river systems of Australia and Papua New Guinea. However, scientists know pretty much nothing about what they do, what kind of threats they face, or how long they've even been around. The adult shark was one of 2 that was captured by Richard Pillans, who works with a research organization in Australia. Richard has been hunting for an adult speartooth shark for years and has only found newborn specimens. But on this day, Richard came across a male, which suggests the sharks are mating in the river, not just giving birth. The male shark measured about 7 feet long. It was the biggest ever captured, though of course it didn't have much competition. Number 7. Golden largemouth bass. A man in Arkansas reeled in one of the rarest fish ever. He was hanging out at Beaver Lake near Bentonville when he hooked what should have been an ordinary bass. Instead, it turned out to be a golden largemouth bass, a genetic anomaly in the world of bass fishing. This creature had a condition known as Xanthochromism. This means its darker pigment is lost and its ordinary pigment is replaced with a yellowish hue, making the fish look like it's made of pure gold. It's a very rare genetic condition, though it does occur naturally. To give you an idea of just how rare and strange this fish really is, John Stein, a biologist from the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, said the bass was a 1 in a million genetic anomaly. You have better chances of getting killed by a bee or getting struck by lightning. And in case you were wondering, the fisherman did not take the golden largemouth bass home and cook it for supper. Instead, he did the honorable thing and threw the incredible fish back into the water. But of course, he was sure to take plenty of photographs as proof before throwing the fish back into the lake. And now for number 6. But first, have you ever gone fishing? What's the craziest thing that you've ever seen? Let me know in the comments below. And I wanted to give a big shout out to Jose Navarro and Kidat 4 Feet. Thanks so much for spending time with us and for supporting this channel. If you are new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join us. Number 6. Falling lamprey. Usually, if you're going to catch a strange and terrifying fish, you need a fishing rod, or at least be by the water. But in Oregon, one of the scariest fish in the world was recently caught falling out of the sky. According to Tiffany Booth from the Seaside Aquarium, at least one lamprey tumbled out of the sky on an otherwise ordinary Thursday morning. A Seaside family woke up to discover the terrible monster lying in their backyard, very far from the ocean. Eyewitnesses claimed the creature was slimy, slithery, and there was no other way for it to have gotten into the backyard other than falling out of the sky. Even more horrifying is that the lamprey was found alive. And this is not a creature you want anywhere near you. It's basically a small eel with teeth like the devil. Seeing that the fish was still alive, the homeowners called their local aquarium and the manager rushed over, put the creature into a bucket of salt water, then drove it back to the aquarium. It then became clear that the lamprey hadn't exactly fallen out of the sky. It was probably caught by a bird and then dropped from above. This was obvious because of small talon markings on the side of the fish. The bird probably fumbled its catch and accidentally let the fish go. In the end, the lamprey succumbed to its injuries and died. But did you know these are some of the most incredible fish anywhere in the world? They are older than dinosaurs, they haven't evolved much in millions of years, and they are still boneless and squirmy. They are incredibly tough and are becoming an invasive species all over the world. Number 5. Toothy fish. A man named Paul Lohr had a rather strange encounter with an even stranger fish. This happened in Florida, when Paul captured a giant marine animal that was obviously a fish, and yet had the teeth of a human and smiled just like a person. The animal was pretty creepy to say the least, and even more bizarre was the zebra pattern on its side. The fish had black and light blue stripes. But the fish's teeth get even weirder. From the outside, it looked to have a normal row of square, very human teeth. But when Paul opened its mouth and looked deeper, he saw there were rows of teeth, kind of like how sharks have multiple rows of teeth in their mouths. If you're wondering what a fish could possibly use so many strong teeth for, it uses them to crack open barnacles, clamshells, and even the shells of crustaceans like crabs and other shellfish. Imagine if you had extra rows of molars and could easily crack open a walnut. That's basically how these fish operate, making their diet almost entirely out of hard-shelled crustaceans. So, what kind of fish was it? The creature was identified later as a sheepshead fish, and believe it or not, they are pretty common in the United States. Number 4. Shark in the river. In Australia, Denis Rivers is going to be thinking twice about letting his young children swim in the Hastings River near his house after he accidentally captured a deadly shark in the river. Not only was the shark that he caught an apex predator, it was also enormous. The shark had an estimated weight of about 550 pounds and measured about 10 feet long. It wasn't a great white and it wasn't a hammerhead, but this was a bull shark, something that probably shouldn't be skulking through the river where kids are playing and swimming during their summer vacation. But apparently, it's something you should worry about. How did Denis catch the shark in the first place? He was fishing at night, alone, about 3 miles upriver in the dark. He was using eel for bait and had never expected to reel in what he did. It was a battle from the very start. The shark almost spooled him 4 times, gobbling up 1,300 feet of line in quick runs. It took Denis an hour to get the stubborn shark onto the rocks, at which point he had to call out for help. Luckily, there was a guy camping down the road who heard his screams and ran to give him a hand. But even together, they couldn't get the shark out of the water. They had to phone a friend, and a whole bunch of people ended up coming to assist in the capture of the shark. At the end of the day, scientists believe the bull shark was a female and was probably upriver to give birth. They are known for tolerating fresh water, unlike other sharks, but usually ones this big stick to the ocean. You just never know where you might find a big shark. Even in fresh water, you have to keep an eye out. Number 3. Giant goldfish. During a routine water quality test in South Carolina, Parks and Recreation officials made a rather bizarre discovery in a small lake. The first thing they discovered is that the lake was healthier than anticipated. The second thing they discovered was a goldfish that weighed 9 pounds living in the murky water. For anyone who knows anything about goldfish, this is completely enormous. These fish usually weigh less than a pound and can be found in any kindergarten aquarium. And yet a literal Goliath of a goldfish was found in this random body of water in South Carolina. Nobody knows how it got there, how long it's been there, or who put it there in the first place. Someone probably released their pet into the wild, and it did really well. Usually the main fish officers find in the lake are bass, catfish, and bream. Somebody must have dumped the goldfish into the lake, and it just so happened to grow far beyond any logical proportions. Either that, or it wasn't a goldfish at all, and was actually a koi fish. What a lot of people don't know is that goldfish and koi fish are both carp that can thrive in similar settings. The biggest difference between them is that koi fish are pretty expensive, and goldfish not so much. Number 2. Creepy opaw fish. 3 fishermen captured a very unusual fish off the coast of Virginia Beach. They were spending the day sword fishing near Norfolk Canyon and had been about to give up for the day when they snagged what is known as a moonfish. The moonfish is also called the opaw fish, and the specimen these guys caught weighed 143 pounds. It was nothing short of incredible. The moonfish looks like a huge red disc covered in white spots. Like its name suggests, it's shaped like a moon and seems more like a creature from someone's fantasy than something you would find in the water. Even more unusual is that the moonfish is usually found in tropical waters in Hawaii and Japan, not off the coast of Virginia Beach. This is the first one to be captured in the area and was so big it almost broke records. The largest moonfish ever caught weighed 180 pounds, just about 40 pounds heavier than this one. Apparently they are pretty tasty, and there is a rising demand for them at restaurants. Number 1. Rare yellow penguin. A very rare penguin was recently discovered on the South Georgia Islands, sending the world of nature lovers into a frenzy. It was Belgian photographer Yves Adams who spotted the unique bird among thousands of others on a beach during his expedition to the Antarctic Peninsula. What made this penguin so rare? It was of a rather unusual color. Out of the hundreds of thousands of penguins gathered here, they were all pretty much black and white king penguins. But this one was yellow. It stuck out like a sore thumb, allowing Adams to capture some amazing photographs of the animal. He only saw it for about a minute before it vanished into the huge colony of king penguins, but he was snapping the shutter of his camera the entire time. So why was this penguin yellow when all the rest were black and white? It was probably some type of albino, though much more complicated than having a simple lack of pigmentation. Its melanin levels might have depleted so much that instead of turning pale white, it simply turned a golden hue of yellow. Of course, nobody actually captured the penguin. Photographers don't usually spear penguins and bring them back home, but it was still a pretty amazing animal to catch in photos. For all we know, another yellow penguin may never be born again. Thanks for watching! What creature did you think was the weirdest? What's your favorite sea creature? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button for more videos like these. See you next time!